So maybe we'll slowly get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Emma Backfish. I'm the Public Programs Coordinator at the Long Island Museum, and it is such a pleasure and joy to have Bobby Bonanno here with us today in a program that luckily will be recorded, so we can, if you are a few minutes late or if you have to jump off at any point, you will be able to go back and see this wonderful talk from Bobby today about the history of the Fire Island Pines. As a reminder, at the Long Island Museum, we have our exhibition on Fire Island open until December 15th. So you have about a week left to go over to Stony Brook and see what is a really remarkable exhibition. And hope if you have seen it already, please go back and see it one more time. You have a week. So I would like to turn things over to Bobby right now. He is the president of the Fire Island Pines Historical Society, and he is here to talk about the rich and interesting history that goes along with it.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, everyone. My name is Bobby Bonanno. Over 14 years ago, I began a journey through Fire Island history that has resulted in creating a non-for-profit historical society, social media, and a website for Fire Island Pines called pineshistory.org. I really had no experience in doing any of this. So that the great thing about doing all of it, it has brought me into the world of the internet and social media and has taught me so many different things that I'm incredibly grateful for. I thought foolishly that it was going to be a one-year project. But as they say, time flies when you're having fun, and this has been nothing but fun. There is always fun to be had on Fire Island. Meeting the many people who have contributed to this history has truly been a privilege to me. I'm so grateful I started this when I did because many of those people have passed, historical people. And I'm so happy to have met them and know their history and have archived it. But it's a history that takes its rightful place in the gay history books waiting to be written. So now I would just like to thank the Long Island Museum for hosting this talk and for spreading the love and the art of Fire Island in your exhibit, The Art of Liberation. So as we head into winter, why not let's take a ride to Fire Island. I'm going to be narrating this video of the slideshow of our incredible archives. Just like the art of Fire Island that is created here, there is also an art to, as I like to say it, Fire Islanding, which is the slang for getting here, staying here, whether it's a day, a week, or a season. For those who have never been, especially if you live on Long Island, please go. It is truly a special place that allows you to experience whatever you decide. If you did not know, there are 17 communities from very small to larger on what is Fire Island, a 32-mile long and 1-mile wide barrier island that protects Long Island. So as you can see, it's a sliver. And what worries me is in this, the way the weather is now and climate change, we're in the process now of restoring our beach for, I don't know what time, how many times we've done this, but Mother Nature and what's going on in the world creates worry for me in that fact that maybe someday somebody would say, once upon a time, there was a place called Fire Island. And so that's why this has become such a passion and an important thing for me to preserve this history for the world, but also for our role in gay history. Your journey begins as soon as you step aboard the ferry, as that is the main way to get here. Socialization is just one of your choices. However, it's here that relationships are continued, revitalized, discovered, or a peaceful serenity is found on what can be someone's harried, busy world. One thing for sure, once you're aboard, the world drifts away. I don't know what your experience is like, but Fire Island is a busy place, and sometimes you don't get to see people, or you do see them across the harbor. And sometimes here, for that 20 minutes, you get to spend time with people and catch up, and it's magical. It really is. Or you get to meet someone that you haven't met. So, or like I said, you get that quiet time where you're just being with yourself. That's so important. Once you arrive, it's your choice for what you want to experience. Nature, we are surrounded by the most beautiful nature. I mean, our beach is beautiful, wildlife, um, greenery, all of those beautiful things. Friends, whether it's new or old or people you're just meeting, there's an opportunity for that. Again, solitude. You could bring a book and spend the day by yourself. Or romance. You could be bringing romance with you, or you could be finding it. Or party, party the night away. I personally have loved all of it at different times and different ages. From the name Fire Island comes the folklore of the Indians and pirates and how it came to be. From the fires one could see from a distance to pirates seeking refuge from the law. It's all part of the story. However, it's the history of Fire Island that has become my passion, especially Fire Island Pines, which I can call home for so many reasons. All the communities have a unique flavor all their own, but our closest relation is our older sister community called Cherry Grove, which is where I started my journey and where many people start their journey and go back and forth. Cherry Grove's history goes back to the 1900s. The Pines, as it became known, began its story in 1952. In my opinion, there would be no Pines without Cherry Grove. The Home Guardian Company of New York was the developer of not only the Pines, but many communities on nearby Long Island. They had a definite plan for the Fire Island Pines, as you can see by the infamous sign that hung in the harbor seen on the right of this image. The sign would mysteriously disappear and reappear from time to time as the community grew. Why, you ask? Two things. The proximity to Cherry Grove created a migration for gays wanting a more upscale, bigger home. Also, Broadway showgirl Peggy Fears on the left, who bought Into the Pines, built her Pines Yacht Club, which then brought a show business clientele of gay men and women who would now have to mix with the locals of Long Island. The Home Guardian Company of New York encouraged Peggy to build quickly because they were selling and they needed to have a downtown to show people what would be available to them. All of this did not create the family community that the Home Guardian Company of New York imagined. However, a different kind of family would be created, one that you could say was a shared love, which we'll see later. Peggy Fears would go on to begin the upscale influence of the Pines. Broadway and the Hollywood population were hearing about this secluded getaway and arriving and investing. People like Bob Fosse, Joan McCracken, Jerome Robbins, to name a few, were encouraged to buy property here. They saw this is an up-and-coming investment. They saw the seclusion that it gave them away from the public. And of course, Peggy was bringing and inviting all of these people in. And at the same time, local Long Island people were there too. So it was this, at the same time, the gays were also hearing about it. They were hearing that gay bell to explore this new Mecca. And so the diverse cocktail mix that the Pines would become began. It's the 1960s, and enter model John White. John would buy in with partners from Peggy and then buy them all out for the sole ownership. He guarded the Pines like a lion. It was his castle, and he was king. He would go on to bring the fashion world in as the gay quotient went up. The Pines was swinging into the 60s as soul music took over and dancing became a pastime. Out went the singer Jimmy Daniels, who used to entertain at the Blue Whale, and in went the jukebox. One small problem: men were not allowed to dance with men. Can you imagine today? And so the line dance was born, where one woman could dance along almost 10 men. History then happened here. In 1966, this gathering of gay and straight in the late afternoon would become what is now known as the tea dance. This ritual of meeting and dancing would become tradition and would go on to be replicated today at gay resorts all over the world. But I'm here to tell you it started here. This phenomenon would grow, and from all over Fire Island, they would come to the tea dance. Today, the name has evolved and encompassed other venues: low, mid, high, twirl, pool tea. But to me, its classic name, tea dance, remains. The simple beach cottage that was the model for all homes was giving way to a grander picture of what Pines life would become. The architecture of the Pines was being established as many gays from the fields of the arts were arriving and putting their creative stamp on all. So bigger was better, as homes turned into works of art, dotting the landscape of the sand and sun. These are just a few of my favorites here, but you could see how diversified the architecture was and how creative. The Pyramid House on the left, below it, Tommy Toon's house. In the center is John White's house. On the right top is one of our most famous houses, the TV house that's shaped like an old-fashioned TV. And on the bottom is a house on Shore Walk, owned formerly by Ron Martin, but on the bay, and gives you a very different view. For people who have never been there, my advice is to walk along the ocean, because that's where many of these beautiful homes are. Up-and-coming architects like Horace Gifford, Harry Bates, Scott Bromley were making their names in our book of history. As a matter of fact, one of them already has. This is a book by Christopher Rawlins, my friend, called Fire Island Modernists. It's in probably every home on Fire Island. It is a beautiful coffee table book of the architecture. We donated from our archives many of the pictures that help tell the story of the Pines, and so proud to have done that, and proud of this beautiful, beautiful book. The 1970s arrive in a popper-filled haze and a disco beat. This would be a prolific time in the Pines as the word was out. It is what I like to call the golden age of the Pines, where art and fashion, all of it, It became a melting pot of the creative, fashion, art, architecture, and design all arrived ready to make their mark. Beach cottages became castles of glass. The age of disco music became the soundtrack to history. The tea dance became the centerpiece of Fire Island weekends to see and be seen. Fashion icons like Calvin Klein, pop artist Andy Warhol, and celebrities like Cher, Tommy Tune would be spotted mingling among the locals. The Blue Whale blender drinks were being blended by longtime bartender Tom Finn, leaving your tongue blue stained and giving away where you spent the evening. They came from all over Fire Island to be part of this scene. During this time, the Pines became the largest purchaser of blue curacao in the US because that was one of the main ingredients in this blender drink called the Blue Whale, named after the Blue Whale bar that we all know and love today. The fashion world became part of the community as John was a model, as models like Pat Cleveland, Beth Hardison, and fashions Andre Leon Talley would sashay into Fashions of the Pines, the local benefit for the Pines Conservation Society held at the Botel Pool. The Pines was making front page news. Here you can see the cover of the Fire Island News with Pat Cleveland. We had the honor of bringing Pat back in 2017, and we held an incredible talk at my friend Karen Adir's beautiful oceanfront house. And Pat was amazing, so relatable, so real. She was incredibly excited about coming. We brought her back to the house she stayed at with the designer Stephen Burrows, and she remembered where there was a mirror, where there wasn't one now. And she just was approachable and real. And she's still very vital in the world of fashion. Her daughter is now part of that, a famous model herself. And we're just so grateful for that experience that we were able to bring her back. As the 70s came to a close, an event that would change the community culture would happen. It was simply called Beach. Many people refer to this as Beach 79, but Ron Martin came up with the simple word beach, and it said everything about it. These are some of the key players, Ron being the first one there, to make it happen. A mixture of straight Pines craftsmen and workers and the gay creatives of the Pines. Up until that point, the community was quite still segregated. This changed everything. The Pines Volunteer Fire Department needed a new truck, and after viewing a recent party called Sunrise on the beach, it was all agreed that a party was the way to do it. A party on the beach in a way it had never been done before. It would take a collaboration between the gay creatives and the straight craftsmen to create what would be Studio 54 on the beach. Music, being the soundtrack, would be the integral part of the event. At the time, many of the top brass from major record companies like Casablanca frequented the Pines. They were brought into the planning in hopes that their biggest star, Donna Summer, would be the main attraction, were at the top of the list. Unfortunately, she was in concert with the Bad Girls Tour in Las Vegas, and coordinating getting her from Las Vegas to the Pines just could not happen. Today, it would probably be no problem. So one lucky 16-year-old girl from Canada named Fran Jolie, on her way up with a song about to break out called Come to Me, would get the chance of a lifetime to debut her song to the most devoted audience and then watch it climb the charts. The party would go down in history and created a template that all have followed have used. You must remember that the technology that we have today at our fingertips was not available. So these great minds came together and created their technology, their own technology to make this happen. So the gay creatives needed the straight craftsmen to fabricate these ideas that they had. And the straight craftsmen were amazed at how this all was coming about. More importantly, is that it would change the culture of the Pines forever by uniting both of these parties for this community goal. And in that process, as I just said, respect and awareness evolved through the whole community and changed it. In 2019, its 40th anniversary, we not only celebrated this, but I wrote a book about it. The story about the age of volunteerism and community that I still think would make a great movie. So if someone knows Ryan Murphy, please pass this information on. Unfortunately, the book is no longer in print, but it's still one of my proudest accomplishments. We did bring back Fran Jolie. As a matter of fact, that's the last time I saw her, was in 2019. I'm excited to say that I am doing an event here in Florida where I am bringing her back. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. She's an incredible person, a great friend, and still sounds great. All this wave of change would make the Pines a destination. The art of fire islanding would be on the mind of many gay men and women. But first, the 80s arrive with a wave of change. The cornerstone of the Pines, the beloved restaurant disco called the Sandpiper, would now evolve into what would be called the Pavilion. This box-like structure would be the talk of the community, as many called it, the box that this new ferry came in that year. This box was the result of many complaints about the sound emanating from the former Sandpiper, disturbing those nearby. So the Sandpiper started as a restaurant, turned into a disco in the 70s, was never really built for sound. So there were lots of windows. And the nearby co-ops, of course, did not like hearing all that disco music into the late hours of the night. So in designing the pavilion, which we found out later was built literally over the Sandpiper, nothing was knocked down. You could see there were very small windows, so it was keeping the sound in. But for most people who experience this pavilion, this is the one that is the most beloved. As you could see, the deck outside on the top was incredible because you were able to see what was happening in the downtown, and people would be able to see you and you'd interact, and it just would be great. The biggest thing was the dance floor inside the second floor had a balcony that surrounded it, and you could be part of the dance without being in the dance. And so that is one of the biggest things that people loved about it. Theme parties. It would be the era of theme parties, and that is a Fire Island tradition. The Pink Party, the Shore Leave Party, and even the Mommy Dearest Party were just some of the themes. This is a tradition that still goes on today. It's a lot of fun. It gets people involved with each other. We've got beautiful pictures, as you can see in our archives, of all of these things. However, nobody threw a party like the hostess of the Pines, Gloria DeMann, and her husband Larry at their beautiful home called Reflections. The tradition has continued uh, with the seasoning opening birthday celebration and Reflections former owner, the late beloved owner Gil Meary, who passed unexpectedly this year. What could be better than singer Peter Allen and the Rockettes at the party Hooray for Hollywood for God's Love We Deliver in 1988? This is the caliber of the kind of parties that went on. Pretty amazing. They built a platoon on the water in front of Reflections, and this is where these people dance. It was amazing. Also arriving was what would be called a gay disease called AIDS. This would change the community again, as share houses would lose many of their housemates, and fear would keep many away from the Pines for years. The rose ceremony was a big part of the Pines then. This would be a celebration of life for those who passed, sometimes involving the ashes. They would go to the beach. But to celebrate the people, they would throw the roses into the ocean. And this was a fairly common occurrence during that era. The Fire Island family was born as many clung to each other in hopes of surviving. These were relationships made from people spending time together. And this still goes on. Fire Island family is something that still happens, and just grateful for all of the people who are my Fire Island family there. The 90s brought about the era of the benefit, all-night dancing, and the art of the DJ. Dance divas like Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, and Madonna would help change the soundtrack of history. Benefits like From the Pines with Love, the GMHC Morning Party, Pink Umbrellas were just three that would define the decade as they came together to fight a plague that would take out a generation of gay men. These benefits would, of course, have star power, as the members of the Pines knew how and who to reach out to. So singers like Dionne Warwick, Melissa Manchester, and Melba Moore joined the Pines as they rallied together for their own. As always in the Pines, bigger was better, as the GMHC Gay Men's Health Crisis Morning Party, which started as a simple house party, moved on to the beach in 1991 and grew into one of their biggest benefactors. For those who don't know what a morning party was, it was an after party. After a night of all-night dancing, people would go to someone's home where the party would continue, music, conversations, as the effects, I like to say, of the evening wore off. But I love the morning party. It was one of my favorite parties because it's during the day. I am not necessarily, especially now, a nighttime person, and would love to see something like this come back. It's been recreated over the years in different names, but still was a great party. A beautiful, worthy cause would turn sad as ultimately this would turn into what was called a circuit party, creating its own demise in 1988. So you could see how huge it got. But there was heart in it. The upper right-hand corner. I love this sign, the best thing in life of friends. This is a sign that these people made on their oceanfront house that the party was in front of. But you could see where it went. It also brought about the concept of all-night dancing at the pavilion, where a brotherhood of housemates from shared homes came together to define relationships that would create memories that still hold strong today. Some of these people are still out there, still knowing each other, still seeing each other, created in incredible bonds that, like I said, still hold strong today. The Millennium changes everything as the Pines continues to evolve. The GMAC party ended as the Pine then in 1999 creates their own beach party benefit called the Pines Party, which celebrated its 25th anniversary this year. In 2000, the biggest change of this decade, I should say, is the ownership of the Pines itself. In 2004, John White sells to entrepreneur and Pines resident Eric von Kirsteiner. Eric sees the need for a much needed revitalization and brings a whole new generation to the Pines. This was an era that I really participated in, and it was amazing to see it come back to life. John White, was from an era of if it isn't broke, don't fix it, and he didn't. He let it kind of go on cruise control, and Eric did come in and revitalize it very much so. However, when a group of young businessmen, Matt Blesso, Seth Weissman, and Andrew Kurtzman, in 2010 made Eric an offer, he certainly could not say no. There would be more change, but nothing like the eras that preceded it. It began with a new pavilion, but hurricanes, a devastating fire, bankruptcy, and financial issues ended with an auction. 2015 is where Pines business owner and rivaling club Sip and Twirl, steps up with a business partner, Ian Reisner, to be the king of the castle, the whole commercial area. History repeats itself, as John White owned most of it also. He does his best to keep it all consistent and maintains in a crazy economy and COVID. However, the struggle was real, and we all know how it turned out. So here we are in 2024, and new ownership has now begun with business, hotel, and club owner Tristan Shoecraft, with the promise of new beginnings. The famed landmark Botel has already started the transformation, and we all now wait to see what comes next. There are no renderings. There is no plan being revealed. So here we are, waiting. So yes, the new generation is here. And with that, new home ownership, a remote digital world where the seasons are longer as people are staying longer, and the hookup is not a walk to the meat rack, but a swipe on your phone. In spite of it all, it remains, especially in these political times, a safe haven for us all. As one gets back on the ferry to leave, whether a day, week, month, or season, you leave with a feeling of escape from a world that one can say we need now more than ever. Thank you. Emma, we are ready to go live. So
Okay, I'm
hi,
just,
everyone.
yes.
I hope you have enjoyed this. Um, Thank you all for coming on this ride today. Thank you, Emma, the Long Island Museum. As many of you might know, I've recently moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, to begin my next chapter, which is still revealing itself. In doing so, I have now decided to step down as president of this historical society that I created 14 years ago. As you can imagine, it was a hard decision. But I realize it's time for a different perspective and different ideas. I remain a board member, and I'm passing the baton proudly to Pines resident John Dempsey, who's on our board. Uh, my passion for the Pines remains in my heart and soul forever. So without getting weepy, um, I'm just so grateful, Emma, for being able to do this, because what it showed me was, I haven't looked at our archives in a long time. I'm constantly archiving, whether it's archiving things that happened last season, or just finding things on the internet, buried treasure, people donating things to us. But it gave me the ability to look back and say, wow, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of this work. See, I get emotional because it has been a legacy. It's sort of my life's work. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just really, it's given me this chance to say, wow. Uh, and the future and the work ahead. And of course, I will be visiting next summer, and I'm curious to see what Tristan is going to do. Um, and of course, it'll be part of history. And Fire Island will always be with me, always. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Bobby. And I don't know if you see in the chat like I do, but just
I'm
really
going to,
appreciative comments about what a wonderful presentation this was, and what your voice and everything that you have done in on the Pines has meant to these people and to so many others. I know Meryl had asked a question about ownership, and Art, I believe, came in and gave a pretty good answer if you see that. And so I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on it. Meryl was just asking about the ownership of the Pines. Is that the ownership of the pavilion, or all most of the commercial area? Do the stores pay rent to the landlord? And Art said that Tristan had purchased about 75% of the Pines commercial space, including Botel, Pavilion, and Blue Whale. He did not acquire Sip and Twirl. So if there was any other
yes.
thoughts you might have on that.
Yes, PJ, the former owner of all of the commercial district, will still have ownership of Sip and Twirl. It almost brings us back to an era when Eric had owned it in the early 2000s. And it created sort of a rivalry, which I think competition is good for everyone. It makes everybody step up their game. So I think it's going to be a good thing for both parties. Um, like I said, Tristan will own almost, most of the frontage there. What will happen, it's anybody's guess. It's certainly going to be different and changed. And my hope in all of that is that he's going to respect what has happened before. I understand things have to change and grow and evolve. But to me, it's sort of like, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? People come to the Pines for a beach aesthetic. They're not looking to see, yes, they want all the amenities because that's how we are today, but we don't want metal and glass. We want, driftwood, and we want to feel we're away from all of that. That's the whole idea of it. The fact that you walk everywhere is one of the most great, the greatest thing about there, because in your walking, you run into people and you actually talk to people rather than texting them or calling them. So that's, that's the one of the amazing things and beautiful things about that place that I hope does not change. I don't want to see people on scooters and things like that. I think walking, number one, it's healthy. And number two, it's really how you interchange and exchange with people, like I talked about in the beginning on the ferry. Um, so yeah, it's an exciting time. Uh, I will, of course, be watching all of this from my perch here. And again, I am part of the board. We have some exciting things going on. I've watched this grow, and I'm going to, continue to have somewhat of a voice, but I'm very happy to, use my voice, in other avenues. I can't see the questions for some reason.
Yeah, so I think we had the question from Merrill and just like overwhelming just love for you, Bobby, and just what a wonderful presentation again and everything that you have done. So I actually have my own question though, maybe to round out this wonderful afternoon. And this might be a very kind of basic question, but I think it maybe is a nice way to see at the end of this all, if you have a favorite memory, maybe not event, but just a memory from all of your time that you've spent at on the Pines, be it something very, very small or something super elaborate. Do you have something
I I
that
have
you go back to?
I have so many memories, but there's a couple of people, and I didn't say this, but there's a couple of people I want to dedicate this talk to. One would be, and this is my memory, would be George Bolander, who was the postman of the Pines, and who was the owner of the house where I began my share journey, where I actually got to stay overnight and stay and experience the Pines. Because before that, I was a day tripper. This has always been my beach. I lived on Long Island, and well, when others went to Jones Beach, I would be like, I'm getting on a ferry and I'm going to Fire Island. I don't even understand why you're driving there. Um, so he gave me the experience of living there and feeling it and getting to know people. And he passed away years ago, but he will be forever in my heart. And the experiences with him was just so much fun. And also, we lost our board member, Wayne Heiser, this year. And Wayne was a mainstay in the Pines. He was one of these quiet people who, who, went above and beyond for people. And, this is why, this is so important to remember people. And, the other memories are, just amazing, the amazing people. I mean, my friend Karen Adair, who owned a house for 40 years on the ocean, who gave me the privilege, as I say, to be in this gorgeous house that people would walk by and look in and say, who is that? And I was the one looking out, saying she gave me that privilege to be one of those people and be in this beautiful house on the ocean and experience it. So I could go on and on, just beautiful, beautiful people that I have met there. And, now there is a new generation of people experiencing this. And this is what I emphasize with Fire Island Family. You create relationships there that sometimes surpass family. Sometimes they're your only family. And I'm just so grateful for that. I still, will hold those dear. I will absolutely be seeing all of them next summer. And there's no place like it on the world. Like I said, you get on a boat and the world drifts away. So if you haven't, do it.
It's a beautiful, beautiful way to end this wonderful afternoon with you, Bobby. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge and love for the Pines. And as I've mentioned before, this will be available hopefully very soon online. We're going to make sure it's coming out through either LIM or through the Historical Preservation Society. We're going to make sure if anybody has missed it, wants to go back to it, that you can see it again and enjoy this
Yeah,
forever.
I had people reach out and ask us. So we will probably have
Yes.
access to it on our website. Um, Again, this is just such a great little thing for people who knew nothing about it, to be able to, have a good thing that takes you from then to now. So again, grateful, Emma. Thank you so much. And Long Island Museum
Yes.
and all of you, thank you so much.
Actually, if you don't mind, we do have one tiny little last question.
All right,
Bobby, do
great.
we want to try to fit it in?
Yes.
Russell says, as Tristan continues to remodel the blue whale, do you know if the tiled blue whale floor will be preserved?
I will say this to that over my dead body. There is no way they are going to get rid of that blue whale. I mean, that would be sacrilegious. Um, you need to save these things. You need to remind people of what was before. So I have not met this person yet. I am still hopeful that he will reach out to us and I did meet somebody from his team earlier in the season, but it was still very early. So we're here, Tristan, if you're listening. We're here to, give any archival stuff, anything that can remind people of what was, any advice on things. But yes, that has to remain.
Bobby's going to make sure
Definitely.
that.
Yes, I will.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you again, Bobby. And thank you all for tuning in today. And again, we have a week left of the Fire Island exhibition at the Long Island Museum. So please make sure to make your way over to Stony Brook if you get the chance. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.